Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, Text 28. Naya asyanyata anyatamam kinchid astram pratyavakarshanam jahya astratej unnadham astragyo yastratejasa nayasya asyanyatamam kinchid अस्त्रं प्रत्यवकर्षणम् जह्य अस्त्र तेज उन्नद्धम् अस्त्रज्ञो यस्त्र तेजसा न यस्यान्यतमं किञ्चित् अस्त्रं प्रत्यवकर्षणम् जह्य अस्त्र तेज उन्नद्धम् अस्त्रज्ञो यस्त्र तेजसा स्यान्यतमं किञ्चित् Vaishnavis. Give to everyone so that they can read from it. Whatever copies we have, just give it from there. Same as 453. No, not. He certainly. Asya of it. Anyatamam other. Kinchit anything. Astram weapon. Prati counter. Avakarshanam reactionary. Jahi subdue it. Astra tejaha the glare of this weapon. Unnadham very powerful. Astragyaha expert in medical science. He, as a matter of fact, Astra Tejasa, by the influence of your weapon. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O Arjuna, only another Brahmastra can counteract this weapon. Since you are expert in the military science, subdue this weapon's glare with the power of your weapon. Purport. For the atomic bombs, there is no counter weapon to neutralize the effects. But by subtle science, the action of a Brahmastra can be counteracted. And those who were expert in the military science in those days would counteract the Brahmastra. The son of Dronacharya did not know the art of counteracting the weapon. And therefore, Arjuna was asked to counteract it by the power of his own weapon. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. My dear Lord, please guide us all so that we can understand how you are present in our lives, how you have a purpose for us, and how you empower us in different ways. Hare Krishna. I'm grateful to be here with all of you today. Thank you for coming. And today is the third and final part of the series on making our mind attached to Krishna. So some of you have been given a copy of the book. Okay, how many of you got it? We have how many copies? So just, you don't have to give individually, just tell devotees to pass on the book. So they can give some to the Matajis. So I'll be reading something from my latest book as we discussed today. But so you can have a look at the book and we'll read from it. I'll ask some of you to also read from it, and then we will, if you don't have, I'll also going to display the copy, display the book over here. So here, I'll do a quick recap of what we discussed in the last two sessions. Our topic is making our mind attached to Krishna. Mai asakta manaha, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 7.1. So how many of you were there for either of the last two sessions? Okay, thank you. How many of you were there for both the sessions? Thank you. So I'll just do a quick recap of the three sessions. The broad theme that I had discussed was that we were talking about how Krishna's role in our life, making our mind attached to Krishna, is about taking a particular perspective, understanding. First is his presence in our life. Krishna is not far away somewhere in the spiritual world. He's here right now with us. So that helps us to become calm. Then understanding Krishna's purpose for our life. That's what I had discussed yesterday. That helps us to feel connected, that I am a part of a bigger reality. I am part of Team Krishna. And whatever is happening in my life, there is a higher purpose for it. And the last is, today we'll be discussing Krishna's power or empowerment. And that can help us to feel confident in whatever we are dealing with in our life. So now, within these sessions, when I talk about Krishna's presence and how it helps us to feel calm, I didn't use this acronym at that time, but I basically talked about three concepts there. Chit, how we can become more conscious of Krishna. Chit is consciousness. So we talked about the concept. We need to revise our conception that if we are here in the material world, Krishna is not only up there over here. That Everything is within Krishna. This is another conception of Krishna. And this world, so it's not that we go to Krishna by leaving this world, but we go through this world by living our life journey to Krishna. And what we live in this world is also within Krishna's purview. So in terms of the insight that we discussed was that for all of us, there are these four worldviews, that this world is real or this world is false, and the other world is real or false, illusory. And we discussed, I won't go into all the worldviews. The other world is the spiritual world, that is real or it is false. So this was discussed based on Bhagavad Gita 4.10. That so the Bhakti worldview, devotionalism is this worldview. The others are materialism, nihilism, and impersonalism. So we don't want to be in these worldviews. We understand this world is real, and through this real world, we go to the other world. We accept the reality of the world. And the last part was the training that we need to give ourselves. The training to understand that Krishna is here with us now. That whatever is happening for us in life over here, it is not something just arbitrary. When we say God's presence, so we discussed about how through science also there is an understanding of deism that comes up, that God is there as some organizing principle. God is not the controlling principle. But in bhakti, so that is something similar to the Brahma Jyoti conception, that God is more like a passive presence. Now, as devotees on the bhakti path, bhaktas, we want to understand God's presence as all pervading, and we want to understand God's presence as something more also. So we want to understand this God is omnipresent. So everywhere Krishna is there. He's there in the temple that we visit. He's there at home also. He's in our workplace also. He's in our car also. Wherever we are with Krishna. So Krishna's omnipresence we want to understand, but this is not just a passive presence. He's also an active agent. So that active agency I discussed in yesterday's session, where I talked about how the sense of purpose, that Krishna has a purpose for us, and that can help us to feel connected in life. There broadly, I talked about 3 points, which could be summarized as the acronym DIP. So here, what I discussed was that Krishna's purpose is a dual purpose. Dual means that there is a universal purpose and there is a individual purpose. Now, we could oversimplify it and say that there is a material purpose and a spiritual purpose and a material purpose. So universal is that Krishna wants all of us to go back to Godhead. Individual is Krishna wants us to find our way back to Godhead, and Krishna wants us to do good, to do welfare while we are going back to Godhead. The example I discussed was about a mountain and an ocean. So different rivers, all of them are going to the ocean, but each river has to find its own way to the ocean. So Krishna's purpose, Krishna wants us to reach him, but till we get there, he wants us to do good to others, just as a river sustains life forms. Then the second part I talk about is Krishna's purpose is inclusive of our free will and our actions. What that means is that for Krishna, the situation that we are in, whatever situation we are in, it may have a particular cause, but the cause is not important for Krishna. That means we may have come into the situation because of the instruction given to us by some senior devotee. We may have come into the situation because of our own miscalculation or mistake. We may have come into the situation because somebody misled or manipulated us. It doesn't matter. However we come to the situation, Krishna can pursue his plan and his purpose. Krishna can include that in his purpose. So I discussed the example of GPS as God's positioning system. That even if we take a wrong turn, the GPS has things mapped out and it will get us back in the right direction. So we discussed various examples for this. How something may be because of some misunderstanding. Because of misunderstanding, somebody is put in a situation. But in spite of that, so how Sugriv had to wander all over the world, but that wandering gave him knowledge that he could use later in Krishna's service. Now, it could be because of a mistake, as it happened, say in the case of Draupadi, that there was a morsel of food left on the Akshay Patra, and Krishna used it in to furthering his plan. Now, it could also be because of a misdeed by someone, a deliberate wrong action, hateful action done by someone. That is, we discuss about Duryodhan rejecting Krishna's plan and making that the war has to happen. Even through that, Krishna has a plan A and Krishna has a plan E. The plan A was to avoid the war. Plan B was to ensure that everybody knows who is causing that war. So now Krishna's plan can include also some master plan that we may make. So that could be, we discuss about Srila Prabhupada and his going to the mission in the West. His spiritual master didn't tell him where exactly to go. But Prabhupada went to America and that was included. So why we are in a particular situation does not matter for Krishna. Krishna can use whatever situation we are in for our purpose. Now, it could also be because of our own mastery of a particular subject. And we discussed that as an example of Arjuna. When Arjuna learned archery, he did not know that in future he would be using that archery in Krishna's service. But when he was there, he focused on learning that archery as well as he could. So why we are in a particular situation, let's not lament too much about that. We focus on knowing that wherever I am within Krishna's plan. And the last part to discuss was it's personalized. Personalized means that each one of us is an individual. We discussed how all metaphors are limited. If we consider a puppet, puppet conveys obedience, but there is no love in it. So Krishna doesn't just want our obedience, Krishna wants love. So it's that parents don't want to replace their child with a robot. So Krishna doesn't want us to take away our free will. The purpose of obedience is not the no independence, to take away our independence, to take away our autonomy. It is to get us to use our independence well, to train us, to guide us, to equip us to whatever independence we have, whatever individuality we should be able to learn to use well. And in that connection, we discussed how dharma can be very individual, how one serves. We discussed the contrast between Vidura versus Vibhishana. That Vidura didn't go to the opposite side, Vibhishan went to the opposite side. So this, broadly speaking, depends on two things. Discuss what when we say it's personalized, it depends on a person's disposition, what is their particular nature, and also depends on their position or their situation. So this is guna and karma. Guna is the disposition. The position refers to what is the role we are playing. So Vibhishan was in a different position. He was Vidura was in a different position. We also discussed about Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada went to America, but then he continued preaching in India. He said, "It is my desire to preach in India." That is individualized, personalized. But that is ultimately that he wanted to. He was a first-class disciple. Not that he rejected his spiritual master's instruction. As a first-class disciple, he decided that I will continue in my own way, my spiritual master's mission, with my understanding. So therefore, for us, Krishna wants us to use our individuality. So whatever situation we are in, we focus on, want to move ahead, two things: learning and growing. What more can I learn? Generally, learning may be in terms of ability, skills. Growing may be in terms of qualities or virtues. So sometimes we learn some new skills when in a particular situation, and we also learn, maybe we learn more patience, we learn more farsightedness, whatever. So Krishna wants us to keep growing when we go through life. So this was a bit of a heavy recap, but I felt that. So if you feel that this is becoming a little complex, don't worry. The future part will be even more complex. No, not really. This will be fairly simple. So today what I'm going to discuss is that how do we understand Krishna's power in our life? And when we see that there's empowerment, that will make us confident that Krishna is not just here. It's like, yes, if we are in a war, okay, I'm not fighting this war alone. The commander is here. The commander is not just here. The commander has a plan and a purpose of where I am fighting and how I should be. And that commander is ready to give me weapons so that I can do my job properly. So we discussed about how Krishna is in the first session itself that Krishna is not just a protector. Krishna is also a empowerer. Krishna doesn't just say tell Arjuna that I am God, I'll do wonderful things. You just watch what I'm doing. Krishna says, you do things in my service. So in the verse that we discussed today, the theme was Krishna is telling Arjuna that Krishna is equipped, the empowerment Krishna is giving is Arjuna already has the Brahmastra over here, but he's helping him to recognize. That now we may say, can Arjuna not recognize the Brahmastra? At that particular time, Ashwatthama suddenly shot that weapon, and that weapon was so deadly. Some commentators explain that this is actually not just Brahmastra, it's a Brahmashira. And Brahmashira is much more powerful than like multiple Brahmastras combined together. The power was so overwhelming. This is not a very common weapon, and it was not widely known that Ashwatthama had this particular weapon. So the Krishna is quickly helping Arjuna to identify that weapon and giving him a strategy about how to counter it. So let's this book which you have in your hand, how many of you got it? Let's look at it. So basically, I have been writing on the Bhagavad Gita for many years now. Every day I've been writing for one article for the last 11 years. Almost 5,000 articles I've written. But recently I started feeling that what I'm writing is very analytical, and Prabhupada's commentary on the Gita is very devotional. So I wanted to approach the Gita in a more devotional way. So therefore, I started exploring how I could approach the Gita in a more devotional way. I read the commentaries of various acharyas. I also read where our acharyas have quoted the Gita and how they have quoted the Gita. For example, G. Goswami not a commentary on the Gita, but in the Sandarbhas he has quoted. So how has he quoted it? What is his mood or approach? So I found in Kulashekar Maharaj's Mukundamala Stotra one prayer which felt to me as if it is directly inspired by the Bhagavad Gita. He's saying, Samsara Sagar Nimagnamanant Deenam Uddharatum Hare Purushottamosmi. Saying that, oh Lord, this ocean of material existence is unsurpassable and it is unlimited. Please, it behooves you to lift me from this ocean. Now, why does it behoove you? It's appropriate for you to lift me because you have made that promise. In the Bhagavad Gita 12.7, Krishna says, Teshamaham samuddharta mrityu samsara sagarat. So he says that I will lift you from the ocean of material existence. So I felt it was like a lightning went with light, clicked within me that the Gita is not just words of wisdom. The Gita is actually Krishna speaking. So the Gita can be not just a guide to wisdom, but can also be guide or inspiration for prayers for us. So that's what inspired this particular book. So I've taken the Gita, key verses from the Gita, and then how we can use those as inspiration for offering prayers in our particular situation. So there are 122 prayers based on the first 6 chapters of the Gita, and I've selected some verses. So we will read. In each of these verses, there is a picture of a deity of Krishna, and there is a spiritual affirmation, one sentence prayer, and I have rendered the Gita verse in English poetry so that we can get a better feel for the verse. Like sometimes we forget that the Gita is actually a song, because we so get caught in the technical philosophy. And then there is a one-page prayer. So you can go to, if you have the book, you can go to page 36. You can repeat after me. My dear Lord, let your smiling amid my suffering strengthen my faith, not weaken it. So this is based on 2.10 in the Bhagavad Gita. Let's recite this. Tamuvacha Rishikesha Rahasanniva Bharata Senayurubhayormadhye Vishidantam idam vachaha. The Lord of the senses spoke with a gentle grace, a knowing smile playing upon his divine face. Between the armies, standing calm and bright, he solaced Arjuna, who was lamenting his plight. Thank you. So, do we have a second mic? Would anyone? Oh, okay. Would anyone like to? Yeah, this mic. Maybe would anyone like to read one paragraph? The first paragraph. Yeah, we like to read.
Hare Krishna. O my Lord, many are the times when I feel lost and lonely, confronted with the perplexities of life. At those times when nothing I do seems to be working, I cannot help but wonder, do you, O Lord, know my plight?
Yes. No. See, when we all will feel hurt by life. We'll all feel at different times pained by life. But what makes that pain more difficult to bear is if nobody else knows that pain. If we are suffering all alone, loneliness compounds misery even more. And when we are trying to practice bhakti, then we want to connect with Krishna. So when we come to the temple, when we take darshan, we try to offer our seva to Krishna. We try to chant his holy names. But we may wonder, there's so much going on in my life. There are so many things which are chaotic. There's so much pain. Does Krishna know about that pain also? So that question sometimes we feel, what is going on in my life? So that can lead to a sense of sometimes not just loneliness, but sometimes we may even feel abandoned. Like, what am I over here? What am I doing over here? Has Krishna abandoned me? Has Krishna left me? Yes. Read the next paragraph. You can give the mic to the Mataji. You can read two. We'll read two paragraphs. You can read one.
If you do know my suffering, then why do you not step forward to stop it? If instead of stepping forward to help me, I came to know that in those moments you were smiling while I was suffering, O Lord, how would I be able to maintain my devotion to you?
Yes. So why are we talking about smiling over here? This is the verse is talking about that prahasanniva bharata. So when I was writing this pair, I was inspired by one question I was asked when I was in America. One devotee's son, he came to me and he said, I was staying at their home only. So the parents had told me that he is not very, even as a small child, he was very interested in bhakti. He would memorize a lot of shlokas, participate in dramas. But now, he doesn't like to come to the temple. So while I was staying at their home, he came to me and he said, I want to talk with you. I said, he was in college, studying in college, engineering college. So he said, I don't like to go to the temple. I said, okay. What is the reason for that? He said, there is so much going on in my life. There's so many problems, so many difficulties. But when I go to the temple, Krishna is always smiling. It seems Krishna doesn't care for me at all. So, as a traveling speaker, sometimes you feel that you have heard everything, but then sometimes that's a new one. Like that. So then at that time, I explained some things to him and I had shown him this particular verse from the Gita. That here, Arjuna is broken down. Arjuna is in tears. And sometimes we may just brush that lightly. The 2.1 says that tam tatha krupaya vishtam ashrupurna kulekshanam. But For Arjuna to be in tears, we can barely imagine how much pain he must be in. Generally, men in general don't show their emotions public. And on top of that, even if they show those emotions, it'll be probably in some private place, maybe with no one around, or with only very close loved ones around. Arjuna is in public. It's like he's in office. Not just in office, in the place of maximum visibility. It's like, say, if there's a class going on and we get overwhelmed by emotions. If you're in the audience, we start crying, that's okay. But the speaker starts crying. Something very strong must have happened for that to occur, isn't it? So Arjuna is in the point of maximum visibility and he is struck by tears. He's overwhelmed. So why is he overwhelmed? The situation that he's facing is the stuff of nightmares for him. Why is it the stuff of nightmares? Because in life, for all of us, that we all can face pain in different ways. When we say problems come, when we are in pain, the pain can come at many different levels. At a basic level, the pain can be adversity. Adversity means something bad happens to us. But far worse than that is atrocity. Atrocity means that something bad is done to us by someone. So that is, if we go lose our power supply, that is adversity. If we came to know that our neighbor cut off our power supply, that is atrocity. And then there is agony. Agony, see, in both of these, bad things happen to us. But quite often, agony is felt when bad things have to be done by us. We just have no option. I have a friend who is very kind-hearted person, and he's a CEO of a small company. And he said the most painful part of being a CEO is firing people. They said, but if I don't lay off people, in the future the company itself may not exist. So it's like there is no good option over there. And especially for somebody who is responsible and who wants to do the right thing, this is extremely difficult. So for Arjuna, he was in agony because he faced a no-win situation. Now, to fight against Bhishma and Drona, these were the people from whom he learned archery. These were the people for whose pleasure he learned archery. And now these were the people he was called upon to kill with that same archery. Even the most sadistic person could not think of a more painful situation for a warrior. It was not just his relatives. These were venerable teachers. But if he doesn't fight, then Duryodhana will destroy all of them. Yeah, or even if they get Duryodhana to stop from attacking and the war is called off, Duryodhana will get back at all their allies. Because before the war, both sides were trying to get supporters. And anybody who supported the Pandavas, Duryodhana will hit out at them. And Arjuna will feel terrible. He's by nature a protector. That instead of protecting others from pain, because of me, those who supported me are going through pain. So he just has no win situation. And that's what has brought him to tears. And here what is described? When Arjuna is in tears, what is Krishna doing? Prahasan Bharata. So Arjuna is smiling. Now, imagine if we see this kind of counseling situation. One person is crying and the other person seems to be smiling. What's going on? If somebody went to a therapist like that, and one person is crying and the other person is smiling, a therapist could be sued for malpractice. So what is Krishna doing over here? That, so would like to read this? Mataji. Yeah. Yes. So Krishna is smiling, but Krishna is not smiling because we are suffering. Krishna is smiling to reassure us that I have it in control. Like a patient goes to a doctor and the patient has great anxiety. I've got this terrible pain. I think I've got cancer. I think I'm going to die. And the doctor with a very calming, gentle smile, don't worry, I'll take care of this. This is in control. So that is Krishna's smile is not because we are suffering. Now, one more point is that imagine this particular situation where the doctor had been telling the patient, you have to get this treated. The patient is saying, no, I don't want, no, it's no big deal. And now the patient is panicking. So the doctor is smiling because the patient has come now to take the treatment. What was reluctant? So it is through my suffering that I am becoming more open to your calling. So Krishna is not smiling because we are suffering, but that we are coming closer to him. So can you repeat this sentence with me? It's a, you know my pain. You feel my pain. And you want to heal my pain. So Krishna knows what we are going through. Krishna is not apathetic. Krishna does not compartmentalize our life into spiritual and material and say, I am concerned only about your soul. I don't care for your body. I don't care for anything else. No. Krishna cares for the complete us. Of course, Krishna cares for our eternal soul more. But that does not mean Krishna does not care for our body. When I talked about the hospital metaphor, in a hospital, the patients want to be, the doctor wants to cure the patient. The cure may take some time. In the intermediate, the doctor also wants to make sure that the patient is not in too much pain. So pain medication is also part of the treatment. So Krishna, so we could say pain medication is like material welfare, and cure is more like a spiritual welfare. Krishna wants both for us. So, we like to.
Let me remember your smile amid my suffering as a sign of your confidence and competence, that you can tackle any and every problem, no matter how gigantic it seems to me.
Yes. So this is Krishna is smiling because he's confident I can deal with this. He's competent. So that competence, now every metaphor, we'll read the last sentence at the end of the talk. See, every metaphor has some of its limitations. So the hospital metaphor basically has the idea that the doctor is expert and the patient simply has to cooperate. So yes, the patient may also have to do something, take some food, don't take some food, take some medicine, do some exercise, but it's more of a passive role. So we could use different metaphors. One metaphor is that if we consider what is the relationship between Krishna and me. So Krishna is like the doctor, I am like the patient. Now in this, now what I'm talking about in these metaphors, as we move upward, the level of agency means our agency is the word agency common in India? Agency means not a travel agency. Agency means that we are agents, we are meant to do something, we have the capacity to do something. So our agency is our capacity for action. So that increases. The other metaphor we can take is that of a teacher and a student. So now a student has to do much more than a patient. Still, the teacher is very important because the teacher teaches, the teacher guides, the teacher corrects, but the student is much more active. Now, the metaphor directly from the Gita's context is a commander of an army and a soldier in the army. Now, the commander's role is extremely important, but the soldier has to do a lot. The soldier is not just passive. So, now in different contexts, different metaphors can be used, but broadly speaking, if we see Srila Prabhupada when he went to America, he was himself a warrior. You could say he himself is a general who built an army. Ultimately, Krishna is the supreme commander. But it is not that Krishna did some supernatural, miraculous things for Prabhupada. Prabhupada himself traveled to this place, traveled to that place, met this person, met that person. And so, in that sense, soldier or warrior, we can say. So, it is this metaphor that we'll focus on when we talk about the principle of empowerment. So, now Krishna's empowerment can come broadly at three levels. It can come in many ways, but I'll talk about these three levels using an acronym ACE. ACE. A is achievement. Now, when we do achieve, this is what most often what we think of as empowerment. That somebody can do extraordinary things. That achievement is where, say, for example, Arjuna was empowered to fight against so many enemies and win against those enemies. So that is extraordinary. Arjuna attributes it to Krishna in the Bhagavatam later on when he's remembering Krishna. So he says that the Teja, when Krishna has departed, my Teja has also gone. So he attributes it to Krishna. We say Prabhupada was empowered by Krishna. And Hanuman went into Lanka, he achieved something spectacular. And generally, we associate empowerment with achievement. So, like somebody is able to do something spectacular. Say, when we are traveling someplace and somebody has opened a new temple, a magnificent temple. Oh, this devotee started preaching us a few years ago, and now they open a temple. That's achievement. So, broadly, achievement refers to the capacity to bring about an external change. That sometimes Krishna uses devotees as instruments to bring about an external change, a substantial external change. And as devotees, we should be able to see our achievement as Krishna's mercy. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita in 7.8, I am ability in people. Paurusham Nrushu. It is such a life affirming and world affirming vision that the abilities we have are actually, they're gifts from Krishna, but they're manifestations of Krishna. So somebody is a great speaker, somebody is a great singer, somebody is a great manager. All this is actually a blessing from Krishna. It is empowerment. Now, generally, when at this level achievement comes, the achievement, there are broadly two ways it can come. It can come according to ability, according to the ability that we have developed, or independent of ability. What do I mean by according to ability and independent of ability? That Arjuna, it was not that Krishna's empowerment meant that Arjuna became a great mace fighter. Arjuna became a great archer. So the ability that he had already, that he had developed, that he had got himself trained in, Krishna helped him use that ability and to also develop that ability spectacularly. Now, when we are trying to develop the ability or we use the ability, we know that the two fingers principle. There is a human endeavor and there is God's empowerment. So Arjuna's endeavor is not to be minimized. Arjuna practiced lifelong, not just in this Gurukul. He kept practicing his archery skill thereafter. Not only practicing, he kept honing, improving his skills. One key difference between Arjuna and Karna, apart from the fact that Arjuna was a devotee and Karna was not, that Arjuna kept learning and improving his military arsenal. When Arjuna was in the forest, he did tapasya to get further weapons. Karna knew that because of the curse of his guru, he would forget weapons at the last moment. But he did not do any tapasya. He did a swap, a deal with Indra by which he got the Shakti Astra. But that was just a one-time use. So Karna could have done, but he was too caught in pleasing Duryodhan and trying to get into the Duryodhan's inner circle. So the point is that Arjuna worked on developing his ability. So empowerment does not mean that we do nothing and suddenly we are able to do wonderful things. Most of the times, you could say, most occasions, empowerment comes in a way that is broadly in accordance with our abilities. That's why for us, we need to observe what abilities we have and try to develop those abilities. So when we see that some ability is given to us, that ability is a gift from Krishna. But every ability needs to be developed. So Arjuna naturally had the talent. Now, with respect to ability, we can use two different words. There is ability at the level of talent, and there is ability at the level of skill. Now, talent means like some kids they just see a kartal or this and they start picking it up and they're playing it and they just get it right. So they have that musical talent. But then through practice, they are good right from the beginning, but through practice, they can become great. So now, generally, we all have some talents. And to observe those talents, to discover those talents, and to develop those talents, that is something which we need to do. Most of the time, Krishna's empowerment comes along the ability that we have. Now, there are some rare cases where Krishna may empower someone to do something which they have no ability for. Which they have no ability for. That means that sometimes it may be that some devotee goes to preach in a particular area, that devotee does not know the language of that place. And somehow there are cases devotees went to some different countries and they just by their sincerity, by their zeal, they communicated. And some devotees distribute books, they don't even know the language of that place. But they're so enthusiastic, they're so cheerful that just maybe they have some charisma, whatever, that they are able to attract people. They are able to distribute books. It's miraculous. And when that happens, that is special, that is wonderful, but this is rare. This is not what, as devotees, we should expect Krishna will do. It is not that, say, if we don't know any cooking, and we say the senior devotee is coming our home, I'll cook. We may say, oh, Krishna will empower me. And we pray to Krishna, have nice kirtan going on. We do everything in a very devotional mood. And now, if you do everything in a devotional mood, but if you don't know cooking, Krishna will be pleased by our offering, and only Krishna will be pleased. Isn't it? Suppose somebody doesn't know how to sing, and they decide I'll lead kirtan. Krishna will empower me. Yes, Krishna will empower others to tolerate your kirtan. But it won't be a good kirtan, isn't it? So as devotees, we observe what abilities we have, and the empowerment of Krishna generally comes according to our abilities. So some devotees may be very good at dealing with people. They are very cheerful, they are very welcoming. So they can be MC for festivals, they can be counselors, they can be people who become mentors. Now, some people may be very competent. But sometimes what happens, the more competent someone is, the more control they want to have, because they want to do everything well. And if they can't control things properly, then they get angry. Now, if somebody is short-tempered, but they may be very good. They may be very good at, say, decorating the deities, decorating temple for festivals. And now we want to engage them in service. But maybe if somebody is a little short-tempered, maybe they should not be in charge of devotee care. Isn't it? So we have to look at our ability, and generally Krishna's empowerment comes according to the ability that. So now sometimes the spiritual master may give specific instructions which are independent of the ability of a person, and sometimes it's possible that devotees can be empowered to do those things. But more often than not, the empowerment comes according to our particular natural abilities, our nature, and we serve Krishna accordingly. The way our movement is at present, it's very rare for a devotee to get very close personal association of their spiritual master, and then the spiritual master will give like one life-defining instruction. So I talked with my spiritual master 2-3 times. I talked several times. But I asked him, Maharaj, can you give me some instruction for life? So Maharaj said that life is very unpredictable. I can give you some instruction right now, but not for life. So, because situations can change drastically. No, one devotee, Went to my spiritual master and he said, and couple went, they said, Maharaj, we have decided not to have children. Please bless us. Maharaj said, whenever you decide to have children, you have my blessings. So now the idea is that if we expect that somebody should give us some instruction, well, not just somebody, some our spiritual master, a spiritual guide, that's nice if they give. But sometimes things don't work. Now it was, as far as we know, Prabhupada's spiritual master gave him instruction, but Prabhupada did not live in a shadow of constant guilt that I am not able to fulfill the instruction of my spiritual master. Prabhupada himself had that maturity. Okay, right now I'm in Grahastha ashram. I cannot directly fulfill the instruction. Prabhupada was trying. But sometimes what happens is, if we feel I've been given instruction, I have to do it no matter what happens. And then sometimes situations may not work. So achievement is one level of empowerment. And there are devotees who are able to do wonderful things. And if one devotee is able to do wonderful thing and we are not able to do something wonderful, like if we understand this principle, it is Krishna who is empowering, then rather than feeling insecure or jealous, or that this devotee is doing so much, we can feel appreciative that Krishna is manifesting his ability through this devotee. So when this happens, then that as devotees we can have a non-competitive mentality. I was in Australia and there are two preachers over there. They often hear my classes and take a lot of content, take a good amount of content from my classes. So one of those preachers had come to me to meet one-to-one, and he was having a lot of complaints about the other preacher over. He does like this, he does like that. So then, after hearing him for some time, I said, Prabhu, with all due respect, whenever somebody starts a sentence with all due respect, you can understand that what is going to be spoken afterward is not going to be very respectful. So I said, Prabhu, with all due respect, it seems that you are jealous of that person. He said, no, of course I'm not jealous. I'm just extremely unhappy that good things are happening to him and they are not happening to me. And then he spoke that his mouth fell open. And then he realized that's what jealousy is, isn't it? So the thing is that this can happen to anyone. Now, Srila Prabhupada, when he went to America and came back, he naturally introduced his disciples to his godbrothers. But then he found that some of his godbrothers all his godbrothers were also very great souls. But some of them, they found that they were casting aspersions and they were telling his disciples, your Swamiji is doing like this, but our Bhakti did it like this, and this is not right, you're not being taught this. So when Prabhupada heard about this criticism, he was pained. And he said, why can't they see that this is not my preaching? This is our spiritual master's preaching. If our spiritual master has chosen to work through me, then why can't they see that it is the spiritual master, it is not me? That was Prabhupada's humility over there. Prabhupada did not take the attacks personally. He did not become vengeful towards them. But this understanding that sometimes some devotees may be empowered to achieve more things. Now it's very difficult and we should not be judging that when somebody achieves something, what component is their own ability and what component is Krishna's mercy. It's like, if I achieve something, it is Krishna's mercy. Somebody else achieves, it's his own past karma and his own past ability. No, not like that. Ultimately, Krishna's mission is being served and we appreciate that. So we are all in the same team. Going back to the hospital metaphor, it's like two doctors. If there is a pandemic and there are two doctors who are saving patients, the two doctors should not be competing. Why did you save more patients than me? Isn't it? It's good that patients are being saved. So at this level of achievement, there is empowerment. Now, when this is important, this is not the only level of empowerment. What was the acronym? ACE. So C is contentment. Now, contentment is extremely important. Not everybody in the world will be empowered. Or not everybody will be empowered in the same way. Or not everybody will be empowered to do spectacular things in the world. Why some people are empowered more than others? There is a element of mystery in that. So, now if a devotee can be content, yes, uh, this is my service, and I'm going to do this service. So, by contentment, I am going to slightly focus on this, and for E, I will be using another word. It sounds similar. This is enrichment. This sounds similar, but I'm going to talk about contentment more at a material level and enrichment more at a spiritual level. What do I mean by this? That sometimes we say there are many souls who are lost in the material world, and we are trying to bring them to Krishna. And that is true. But what is unfortunately also true is there are many souls lost in the Krishna consciousness movement also. What do I mean lost here? That we come to the Krishna consciousness movement, we do our sadhana, we come to satsang, but we feel lost here. What am I meant to do? What is the service that I can do? Is there something that can be my contribution to Krishna? So we may feel lost. What happens for us? Krishna Bhakti gives us a long-term goal that I have to go back to God. But that long-term goal seems to be too long-term. Okay, what do I do now? Yeah, every day you chant Hare Krishna, every day you do your sadhana. That's nice, I'll do that. But that doesn't give us a sense of movement. That doesn't give us a sense of excitement. That doesn't give us a sense of some kind of progress in our life. So we also need something tangible to do. So when I'm using the word contentment over here, it's like some devotees, when they find some service and they are happy doing that service. So generally, we talk about, as our topic is making our mind attached to Krishna. So we often talk about spiritual taste, not test, sorry, taste. Taste, that is, somebody, we are ecstatic in kirtans, we are ecstatic in hearing Krishna Katha. That is spiritual taste. And then there is, we could say, there is material taste. Now we want to go from material taste to spiritual taste. Material taste is that taste in sense gratification, in lust, anger, greed, and material gratification. Now, sometimes this journey seems to be very long, and sometimes we feel that we are trapped in, as they say, no man's land. I've given up material pleasures, but I'm not finding any spiritual peace. So what do we do at that time? That is where we can have something like a more intermediate taste. So this is an intermediate material spiritual taste. What do I mean by material spiritual taste? That this is, if we cannot go all the way, we can go here, be situated here. It's material in the sense that it is according to our nature, according to our talent, ability, whatever we might have. So some devotees may naturally have been, say, studious before, and now they study Shastra and they teach Shastra. But not every devotee who teaches Shastra may become a spectacularly successful preacher who makes a community of hundreds of people, or who has several thousands of followers on social media. That may not happen. Somebody who has a musical sense, they may become good kirtaniyas. But it's not that they will become immensely popular kirtaniyas. Yes, they do kirtan, but if we feel satisfied doing it, so it's material in the sense that it is directed, it is according to our material ability. It is spiritual means it is for Krishna. Now, why am I not putting it directly in spiritual taste? Because at this level, it may not be that we may feel happy. If somebody likes music, they may feel very happy doing kirtan. But we ask them to come and sit for a class, to ask them to read Shastra, they may, okay, I'll do it for maybe half an hour, 1 hour. And I don't have taste for doing that for a long time. That's fair enough. It's not so like in the growth of bhakti, there is Adau Shraddha, Sadhu Sanga, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishtha, then there is Ruchi, and then there is Asakti. Now the difference between Ruchi and Asakti is said to be that Ruchi is where we are attached to the activity. Or rather we get taste in the activity. Asakti is where we are attached to the person for whom we are doing the activity. That means Somebody likes deity worship. Maybe before they came to bhakti, they like to decorate things. And now they like to decorate Krishna. They decorate Krishna very beautifully. But that's the service they like. Other services, okay, I'll do them. But it's not that I look forward to them. It's not that I delight in those services. And that's okay. So sometimes we value our service based only on the material results that we're getting. So, and if we think that material results are not coming, then what is the value of that service? No. If we are feeling content in that service, that itself is sufficient. So Krishna is bhavagrahi. Krishna appreciates the fact that we are trying to serve. And why some devotees get material results and material, we can say the results for Krishna, so we may not call it material, but I'm using material in the sense that the results are manifested at the material level. Two devotees go out for book distribution. One devotee is able to distribute a lot of books, another devotee is not. Now, why is that? We can try to learn from the other devotees, but sometimes it just doesn't seem to make any difference. That's okay. If we feel content doing that service, that contentment is also a gift of Krishna. That contentment is also an empowerment. Why? Because that contentment is protecting us from Maya. Prabhupada writes about writing. He says in Chaitanya Charan that if we are writing books, now we should know that we are writing it for personal purification. It is for our purification. Now, if others benefit from the books, that's wonderful. So, when we give classes, when we do any service, if we are absorbed in it, then that itself is wonderful. Of course, we can analyze and try to learn how we can have an impact at the material level also. But the point I'm making here is that contentment is also a form of empowerment. And we shouldn't start devaluing that service because no material results are coming. And then what may happen is we start taking up a service for the sake of achievement in which we don't get any contentment. And then we will be constantly dissatisfied. For us, what is important is that, let's put it another way, now we would like to, when we are offering to Krishna, bhakti is naturally seen through our offering. So we want to offer our heart to Krishna. Sorry, let's put it. We want to offer the world to Krishna. Means not the entire world, but some corner of the world. We want to do something substantial in the world. So we can say this. We're concerned about the size of the offering. No, okay. I want to give a huge donation for Krishna. But we also, more importantly, we also want to offer our heart. This is more like the spirit of the offering. Now, best is if we can offer, which is if we consider 4 quadrants, we are offering the world but not the heart. We are offering neither. We are offering the heart but not the world. We are offering the world and the heart. Which is the best? 4th is the best. That means, we are able to do something wonderful, something substantial in the world as our service, and we ourselves are also attracted to Krishna. Now, which is the worst among all these? Neither. So this is basically just like a materialist only. We could say this is bad. Now, among the other two, 1 and 3, which is better and which is worse? Well, we could say that this is offering the heart is better. Why? Because ultimately, whatever we offer in the world, we are not going to be here in the world forever. And even the offering in the world is not going to be there forever, isn't it? Everything in the world is temporary. So, ultimately, Krishna wants our heart. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that for me, one devotee is more valuable than the entire material world. Prabhupada also says in the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita that if one person becomes a pure devotee, he'll consider that as a success of his mission. So the point is, offering our heart is more important. Now, offering the world without offering the heart, what do you think about that? Well, it depends. If from there we move upwards then it is good. If you move downward, away, it's bad. What does that mean? Like some people, maybe they are very wealthy and they give a huge donation for a temple, but they want to know that my name has to come prominently over it. Now, that's okay. It's not the best, but it's good. They could be squandering their money for sense gratification. They're using it to build a temple. So everybody has some pride. If that pride is directed in a religious direction, then they will do something good for society. They will do something good for Krishna. However, the best is from there they understand, okay, I want to be known in the world as a religious person, as a pious person, as a good person. Actually, I want to be a good person. I want to become a devotee. So if from there, if they get connected with Krishna and gradually they come to where they also offer the heart, that is good. So that's why as devotees, we need to encourage each other. It's amanina manadena. That means any devotee who is doing some service, we should be appreciating that service. We should be encouraging them in that service. We should be recognizing them for the service if they have done something substantial. It's I was in one place in Canada, and there one devotee, and the temple president there is very close to me. He's a young person. And the devotees in the community told me that he chastises everyone in public, and we like to serve, and he gives nice classes, but his public chastisement have hurt a lot of people. So then when I talk with him, he said, I don't like to chastise anyone, but I feel it is my service to them. I says, otherwise, how will they become humble? So I told him, again, with all due respect, see, there is a difference between humility and humiliation. So now, what is the difference between humility and humiliation? That is like the difference between fasting and starving. So, humility is voluntarily chosen. Humiliation is externally imposed. It is not our responsibility to make anyone humble. Life will make everyone humble. Now we can educate people, but about the importance of humility. But when somebody has done some service, it is not amani at that time. It is manadena. Respect them, acknowledge them. What does Bhaktivinoda Thakur say? Sakalle sammane korite shakati deho natha jatha jat. So everybody is doing whatever they are doing. Our culture should be that we appreciate them. Now, should we think, oh, if I glorify this person will develop a big ego. Therefore, I will not glorify this person. Well, maybe don't glorify one devotee disproportionately. If two devotees are doing similar services, we glorify only one devotee and don't glorify the other devotee at all. Then that will be seen as discriminatory and that will cause heartburn. But in general, we want to encourage everyone. Now, when somebody feels somebody is glorified, is it feeding their ego? Maybe. But it could also be nourishing their heart. They can see this is encouragement. This is how Krishna wants me to serve me. Krishna wants me to serve. But we don't know. We should be encouraging each other. So, in general, the point I'm making is that recognition in the world is not a bad thing. Wanting recognition, it is better that somebody seeks recognition from devotees rather than non-devotees. But gradually, we should come to the level where we can offer our heart to Krishna. But what I am talking about is this particular quadrant 2. If a devotee is content in whatever service they are doing, then that itself is an empowerment. If somebody goes to some remote place, maybe they go to some village or some taluka and they start preaching over there. They have a center and they're preaching years over there. And a few dozen people become devotees. It's not a very big place. It's not that any senior devotees are going to come and visit. It's not that they're going to build a grand temple over there. But the fact that they can continue that service year after year after year, that itself is an empowerment. Somebody does deity worship. If you go to Vrindavan, Prabhupada says land of 5,000 temples. Now there are some pujaris, they've just born and they are 5, 6, 7, they started learning deity worship. And then their father passed away and they continued it. And now they are 70, 80. Now that deity is not very famous, not many donations come over there. but they're just doing that service. Now that contentment that they're getting, that is also a blessing of Krishna. That it is saving them from that constant insecurity, craving for recognition. The world should recognize what a wonderful service I'm doing. When that is not there, that itself is a great, great blessing. So when Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, the second time when he came with his disciple in 1970, first time he came in 68, 70, they were staying at one particular place. And in Vrindavan, there are many widows who stay over there sometimes. So there was one widow who would wake up early in the morning, go to take a bath, and then bring flowers and wake up the pujari and give flowers for the deities. And Prabhupada had noticed her when he had been staying in Vrindavan many years before also. And Prabhupada pointed to his disciple and he says, because she is doing the service every day, just by doing this service, Krishna will take her back to him. So certainly Prabhupada appreciated wonderful services somebody would do. But it is not that small services, small in the sense of the world's eyes, they are to be neglected. So contentment is also a blessing. And if we feel content in what we are doing. Now beyond that, empowerment can also be in the form of enrichment. So now what is the difference I'm talking about between contentment and enrichment? So in contentment, we may not really know whether it is material or spiritual. It may be a combination of both, and we don't have to analyze too much about it. Okay, well, it is what it is. But enrichment is more in terms of we feel ecstasy, we feel divine joy. Say when we take darshan of the Lord, or when we participate in kirtans, we hear some inspiring katha, we feel transported to a different domain. Mahaprabhu would go into ecstasy, would go into internal consciousness. So there are these symptoms of ecstasy, not necessarily the 8 Ashta Sattvika Vikar, but just that complete absorption in Krishna without caring for anything in this world. So contentment is more in terms of our service at the level of ruchi, but this is enrichment is more in terms of asakti. So it is not necessary that a devotee has to be very successful in the material world to experience ecstasy in relationship. So that enrichment that is there, that is where a devotee doesn't care for anything other than Krishna. That Krishna, I have you, I don't need anything else in the world. And if you come to that level, that is a very special level of blessing. If you look at Srila Prabhupada's life, in many ways, he met his spiritual master in 1922. And from 1922, he wanted to serve his spiritual master. Which is 1922 1968. His heart was always with Krishna, but there are practically no results. It's not even when he went to America, the results did not come immediately. 1966, he started ISKCON, but even after that, it is not the results came. It was 1968 when he had some health issues and he had to come back to India. It seemed as if the whole mission is going to fall apart. Because without him there, what is going to happen? But Krishna works in mysterious ways. When Swamiji, they used to call him Swamiji at that time, when he went back to India, that actually energized the devotees even more. And when Prabhupada came back in 1968, things just took off after that. So from 68 to 77, there was extraordinary service. Now when Prabhupada went to America, was he empowered at that time? Well, in the sense of achievement, he had nothing to show. But the test was that when people met Prabhupada at that time, they noticed that Swami was so happy. He was talking about Krishna, writing about Krishna, singing about Krishna, cooking for Krishna. He was happy. Now, did Prabhupada look forward that he should also be able to achieve? Yes, definitely. But not being able to achieve had not made him bitter in any way. And this is one thing which I see a lot among devotees across the world. If you forget everything from this class, you can try to remember this point. Sometimes some devotees, they very earnestly want to do some service for Krishna. And somehow things are not working. And because of that, you start talking with the devotees. As soon as they start speaking, it's like the lid for a river of negativity starts getting opened. And they start complaining about the management, they start complaining about this devotee, that devotee. I'm trying to do so much, but nobody's helping me, nobody's cooperating with me, nobody's doing this, nobody's doing this, they're not doing this, they're obstructing me in this way, they're doing this like this. Now, some of those concerns may be genuine. There may be serious issues which need to be addressed at a practical level. But the problem here is that sometimes in trying to offer the world to Krishna, we let our heart become so bitter that in trying to offer the world to Krishna, we make our heart unofferable to Krishna. Krishna is not going to be pleased with a heart that is filled with bitterness. Yeah, there may be some devotees who may have misplaced priorities. There are some devotees who may have misunderstandings. Whatever, all these things happen in life. Now, did Prabhupada have some displeasure with his god brothers? Yes, of course. The displeasure was there. He expressed sometimes that none of them helped him in any way. Even when he went to America all alone and when he came back to India. But that displeasure did not lead to bitterness. So, when Prabhupada had spectacular success, that time it's natural, he was happy. Prabhupada even said that what I achieved exceeded my expectations. But Prabhupada was not bitter. So it is during this time also Prabhupada was empowered in the sense of contentment. Prabhupada was happy writing books. He didn't even know whether his books would be published at all. But he was happy writing. So now this was the phase where Prabhupada had extraordinary achievement. Now, if you consider the last point I make is, if you look at the end of Srila Prabhupada's life, there was one project for which Prabhupada fought more than any other project. Which was that? The Juhu project, yes. Now, does anyone know when the Juhu temple was inaugurated? Yes. It was in January 78. January 14, Makar Sankranti day. And when did Srila Prabhupada depart from the world? November 14th, 77. That means basically just 2 months, 2 lousy months. Now, Prabhupada, if you read the Lilamrut, if you read other books, you'll find Prabhupada fought, not just metaphorically. There were gundas who attacked the devotees. But like a physical fight was also there. Prabhupada fought for building that temple. Now, Prabhupada could have said to Krishna, Krishna, just let me live to see this temple being inaugurated. And yet, just a few days before he departed, one of the prominent life members came to meet him and he asked, Swamiji, do you have any last desires? And Prabhupada said, Kuch ichha nahi, no desires. Now, would Prabhupada not have desired to see the temple? Yes, of course, Prabhupada would have desired to see that. But Prabhupada's desire was always within the purview of Krishna's plan. He felt that, okay, if Krishna wants me to be here, I'll be here. If Krishna is calling me back, I'm ready to go. As devotees, we can always have desires. Our devotion, in one sense, is seen through our desires. A devotee may desire, I want to study the Bhagavatam, I want to become a good teacher of the Bhagavatam, I want to do this service. Desires are wonderful to have. Desires are not a bad thing. In fact, if you have no desires, that is not necessarily a sign of purification. No desires can be a sign of tamoguna. I don't want to do anything, I can be lethargic. So too much desire leads to addiction. Too little desire leads to depression. Because what happens? What am I to do? Nothing is of value. Now we should have desires to serve Krishna. But the desire should never become demands. And certainly they should never become ultimatums to Krishna. Krishna, if you don't do this, I stop worshipping you. No, not like that. So as devotees, Prabhupada had the desire, but for him Krishna was more important than even the desire to serve Krishna. And I told this thing in UK, I was there a few months ago. So one devotee asked me, and Mataji asked me after the class, why was Krishna so cruel that Krishna took Prabhupada away? Why did Krishna not let Prabhupada stay to see the inauguration of the temple? So I told her, I don't think Krishna was cruel. It is that Krishna wanted to teach a different lesson. And what was that lesson? How to depart gracefully from the world. So Prabhupada came to Vrindavan, and we know how some of you have seen that the final lesson, the last lesson, the video is there. Prabhupada, even till his last moment, is dictating the purports. He is talking with devotees, he is hearing kirtans. So in 77 end, Prabhupada was brought back here. Here it was, his heart was being offered, and this was enrichment. Prabhupada was absorbed in the remembrance of Krishna. And in this way, Prabhupada has set an example for us of what empowerment is. Empowerment can mean we are able to do wonderful things for Krishna in this world. But the most wonderful thing is our heart becomes satisfied in Krishna. And that will happen if we keep practicing bhakti steady. So I'll summarize what I discussed today. Broadly, we discuss the principle of Krishna's empowerment, that sensing Krishna's power in our life, that will make us feel confident, not just that connected, that I am part of Krishna's team, but Krishna is going to equip me with what is required. So I talked about at 3 levels. A was achievement. That achievement is Krishna enables us to do wonderful things in the world. And here we discuss that it can generally happen according to our ability. And this is the common way. And therefore, as devotees, we discover and we develop our abilities. And of course, ultimately, we don't just discover and develop, but we also direct that ability towards Krishna as a service to Krishna. Sometimes it can happen independent of our ability also. And if it happens that way, that is wonderful, independent of our ability. But this is very rare. So we discuss examples of Arjuna, we discuss of generally the characters are empowered according to their ability. Therefore, seeing our ability, Paurusham Rushu, it's a gift given by Krishna. So we use that in Krishna's service. Then C was contentment. Now contentment means that we should, it's like there's a lower taste, there is a higher taste, and there is a intermediate, we could say there's the lower material taste, and there is a higher spiritual taste. That is absorption in Krishna. The higher spiritual taste. Now there could be intermediate material spiritual taste. So the material spiritual taste means it is according to our nature, but it is also something which we are doing for Krishna's sake. So broadly speaking, we could associate, now achievement can be associated with that lower taste. It doesn't have to be associated with lower taste because you're doing it for Krishna. But achievement alone can make us filled with ego. If it's only achievement, what may happen is that we will become very competitive, comparative, and dismissive of others who don't have achieved things, or will devalue our service if we don't get achievement. Now, contentment is associated with this intermediate taste, and enrichment is associated with this higher taste. So, for us, not everybody will be able to do something wonderful. So, see, there is the thing what we do in our service, seva to Krishna, can sometimes be wonderful in the sense that the world will see, the world will appreciate. But even if it is not so wonderful, it is always meaningful because it is connecting our heart with Krishna. So don't worry whether we are doing something wonderful or not. Just focus on doing whether we are doing something meaningful. In terms of offering, we discussed that we would like to offer the world to Krishna, but more important is we offer our heart to Krishna. So we discussed that the worst is that it's bad if you're not offering in there. Best is if you're offering the world and Krishna. If you're offering the world also, it is good provided we go upwards. We'll become bad if we go downwards. So we encourage each other, we appreciate each other, we try to help everyone get success at the material visible level also, so that they can feel motivated to move forwards. It is better if we are offering our heart to Krishna even if the world is not offered. And Srila Prabhupada's life, we discussed that from 22 to 68 he was here, 68 to 77 he was be able to offer the world to Krishna, and then finally 77 end, that is when he was at the level of enrichment, completely absorbed in Krishna. So for each one of us, wherever we are, whatever we are doing, we try to offer our heart to Krishna, we will be moving closer to Krishna always. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Let's just conclude by reading the last line. Can you repeat after me? May your smiling face, O Lord, never reduce my faith in your magnanimity. Let it always reinforce my faith in your capability. So that Krishna is smiling doesn't mean that he doesn't care for us. It means he is in charge. He knows what he is doing, and that will be revealed to in our heart and in the world in due course. Is there any question? Okay. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Before I ask my question, I just want to say with my heart, I want to say thank you for a wonderful class. Your class is, I'm slowly realizing, are not just open heart surgery, but open psychological surgery also. And we all need it. I would like to ask you a question, which you said during the class, that not everybody is empowered, and there is a very mysterious confidential thing. We would like to understand, why did you make that statement? What is that confidentiality and mysterious thing? Why everybody is not empowered?
Well, empowered to achieve things at the material level. So, say Jatayu fought against Ravan and was killed. Hanuman went into Lanka and was victorious. Now, why was Jatayu not empowered? Well, we don't know. Now, that's why I said often it happens according to material ability. From material perspective, Jatayu was old and he fought heroically, fought probably the best battle of his life. And Ravan did not actually win by being better. He did not outclass Jatayu. He outlasted Jatayu. He just tired Jatayu out. And that's how he won. So sometimes material ability also matters. So Abhimanyu did not know how to break out of Chakravyuh. He went as a service to Yudhishthira and ultimately to Krishna, but he got trapped. So at a material level, sometimes it's not that just because somebody is empowered or somebody is not empowered. That's not because somebody is having a pure intention to serve. That does not necessarily mean that they will be successful. So it's when we know the story of how the Ganga came to the earth. So many kings performed tapasya, they performed lifelong tapasya, and they never got to see the Ganga coming. It was a Bhagirath who saw it, who was able to bring it out. Prabhupada was asked once by one of his disciples that Bhaktivinoda Thakur preached in Bengal, to some extent Orissa, mainly Bengal. Bhaktivinoda Thakur preached in India. He went a little bit outside India, but mostly in India. And you preached all over the world. So therefore, you are greater than all of them. Prabhupada became very grieved. They never think like that. It is by their mercy that I was able to achieve. So Krishna has a plan for different, and everybody plays their part in Krishna's plan. So we really can't say. Right? Sometimes we can try to figure out. Two devotees are doing preaching in two different places. One place it's very successful, another place is not that successful. Why is that? You can try to figure out, but sometimes it's just not. Now, is it because of past karma? Does the past karma work in a devotee's life? We don't know these things. There's gahana karma. So we accept that sometimes things work, sometimes things don't work. You could say, why did Prabhupada had been successful in India in the outreach of 1930s itself? Now maybe India itself would have been hugely spiritualized. We don't know what Krishna's plan is. Bhishma also says that ultimately no one can understand Krishna's.
Why I asked you this question, because there's one more. Sometimes devotees are empowered, but like Hanumanji, you made a question, you made a point on the Jatayu. We know if Jatayu would have defeated Ravana, then how the things would have progressed. So he was not. But same Hanuman who had forgotten because of Matanga Rishi's curse, but Jamban made him remember. He goes and meets Sita Devi in the Ashok Vatika, and actually he gives her an option that if you want, I can take you, mother. You sit on my shoulders and I'll take you back. But he doesn't. So how do we understand this? See, there is one person who wanted to actually, Jatayu wanted to kill uh, Ravana. He could not. But Hanuman, he was also empowered.
Yeah, I think it depends. That particular case, Mother Sita says that, I don't want to be touched by any other man, and I want Ram to come and save me. To show Ravana, Ram's power. So that's understandable. Sometimes, we may have the power to do a particular thing, but the Lord may want someone else to do that particular service. Like say in a cricket match, sometimes one player is about to hit a century and they're about to win the match. So the other player can hit the winning stroke, but the other player will let it, no, I won't play the hit the winning stroke. You hit, that you can get the century also. You hit get the record. So sometimes the Lord may want somebody, some particular person, to take it across the finishing line.
Thank you, sir.
Raji, before moving, those who are leaving, they can if they have book, they can submit it because it is just for going through. So it is not valid.
Those who wish to buy, they can meet whom? Okay, Sumar Guru is there. They can meet Sumar Guru. They can buy from him and then get it signed.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Thank you for the class, first of all. Yesterday, I asked you a question in the class in the evening, 5 p.m. that what is the definition of surrender, and followed by 2-3 context of examples.
Yes, good question. So surrender can be broadly in two extreme situations. The classic example of surrender is Draupadi. She raises her arms in helpless dependence on Krishna. At the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is also called upon to surrender, and Arjuna surrenders. But Arjuna does not raise his arms. Actually, he raises his arms. He picks up his weapon. So we could say that surrender can mean, at one level, accepting what is happening as Krishna's will. Accepting Krishna's will. So Draupadi says, whatever is happening, Krishna accepted. Prabhupada sometimes quote, Mare Krishna, Rakhe Krishna, Mare ke. We accept whatever is happening as Krishna's will. But surrender is also accepting the responsibility to do Krishna's will. If Krishna wants something to happen, accepting the responsibility to do Krishna's will. So Arjuna's surrender is Karishye Vachanam Tava. I will do your will. So if we have a particular service, if we have a particular task, so we have to take the responsibility to do that. That means whatever is in our control, we should try to control it fully to make it the best possible offering to Krishna. But whatever is beyond our control, we should be able to accept that as Krishna. It's Krishna's. That's what we want to offer the world to Krishna. So surrender is that we commit ourselves to offering this corner of the world to Krishna. If I'm cooking for Krishna, I'll try to make the best possible cooking for Krishna. If I'm giving a class, I will try to prepare everything as well as I can. But suppose at the last moment I come to know that I've been told to speak on a completely different topic. If that's the topic which I'm asked to speak on, I should accept that this is Krishna's will. Let me see what I can do. So surrender can be, generally for us, most of it is somewhere in between. So basically, what is in our control, we want to control it as well as we can. So controllership is not the problem. Controllership that takes us away from Krishna is the problem. One of the qualities of Kshatriyas is said to be Ishvara Bhava. Now, Ishvara Bhava can be said the wanting to be God. But no, Ishvara Bhava, Prabhupada translated leadership. Anybody who is a leader They have to have some, you do this, you do this, you do this, and that's how we'll make things happen. So both can be modes of surrender. Any other questions? Yes.
Thank you very much for the wonderful class. Prabhu, in the book you had, like, there's one phrase which we read, "You feel my pain." So is it just poetic, or is there any reference or shloka from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita?
Does Krishna feel our pain? Well, when Krishna meets Draupadi in the forest after after the whole Vastraharan happens. No, our focus is often on how Krishna miraculously intervenes and protects, but nobody sees Krishna over there. And the general understanding of the assembly is that because of her piety, because of her chastity, her purity, some miracle happened and the cloth got extended. So when she sees Krishna, she calls out to Krishna. Krishna, I'm your devotee, I'm your relative, I'm your friend. I called you. Why didn't you come? And Krishna takes a very human approach. Krishna doesn't say, my plan is perfect. How dare you question my plan? Know your place. No. Krishna says, I didn't even, after the Raju Yagya got over, I did not know that the gambling match was planned. If I was there, I would have come and prevented the match. But a demon, Shalva, had attacked Dwarka, and I was busy fighting for defending Dwarka. And as soon as I came to know, I have come here. And oh Panchali, I have heard about what happened. In that assembly, everybody succumbed to adharma. But you alone stood firm in dharma. You reminded everyone of dharma. Oh Draupadi, your commitment to dharma is glorious. Those who have caused tears to you will suffer. Krishna is very empathic over there. So it's Krishna has the capacity to be with different people at different times. So Krishna is there in your heart of the Paramatma, Krishna is in my heart of the Paramatma. So if, say, we are going through some pain, Krishna is aware of that. Krishna doesn't want us to feel the pain. Krishna is not up there causing that pain to us. Krishna is in here with us, wanting to help us go through that pain, to heal that pain. At the same time, it is not that because something bad has happened to us, Krishna tells Radharani, today I'm not in the mood of Raslila because this happened to this devotee. No. Krishna is capable of being fully available for us and fully available for each devotee.
So somehow I feel it has not been answered. It's one thing to be aware of the pain, understand it, and be empathetic, but to feel it, I think it's like different. So
no, so empathy is feeling the pain. So are we saying that Krishna, because he is God, is incapable of feeling anything negative?
No, what I'm asking is, like, if I get pain, does it mean that Krishna feels it every time?
See, if a child is in pain, does a parent feel the pain?
No, if they are not aware, then they won't feel. But that's not the case with Krishna.
No. So my point is that
yes, they will feel.
They will feel. So love, does Krishna love us? That's the fundamental question. If Krishna loves us, then it is beyond awareness. He feels it. Now that does not mean, like, if a child's toy is broken, the child is crying. The parent feels the pain of the child, but that doesn't mean the parent will start crying. Isn't it? The way that pain is felt, the way that pain is responded to will be different. But it is that, see, every one of us, if we consider this is Krishna, sometimes we think that around Krishna there is a close circle of, say, the gopis of Vrindavan, and Krishna loves only them, and we are somewhere over here all alone. It's not like that, that Krishna has many circles of love. There are the gopis of Vrindavan, there are all the other Brajvasis, there are all the Vaikuntavasis, there are all the pure devotees, there are all the sadhakas, there are all the spiritual seekers, not just bhakti seekers. And ultimately, there are all human beings. Krishna says he is Surdam Sarva Bhutana. So everyone is in a circle of love for Krishna. Now, of course, we want to move closer and closer to more and more inner circle. But it is not that Krishna doesn't care for us. Yes. Sometimes when I do a service, I feel I'm not doing enough. So, and that helps me to improve my sincerity in serving Krishna. But you said that we should feel content. So, so if I am feeling that I'm not doing enough, then am I not pleasing Krishna? Well, that's a very good question. There are two different things over here. See, when I'm talking about as devotees, there is the past, there is the present, and there is the future. Now, naturally, as devotees, we want to do more for Krishna. That is the sign of love. As parents, we would like to say, do the best to our children. Okay, I've been able to give this much, but in future, I can help you to send to go to a better school or give you better facilities, whatever. We want to love means we always want to do more. But while we want to do more for Krishna, there should be peace with our past. That whatever I did, okay, I made some mistakes, but ultimately it's part of Krishna's will. And I did what I could in that situation. So wanting to do more in the future should not be at the cost of dissatisfaction in the sense of irritation or resentment about the present. So we need to be appeased our past. And of course, we want to be focused on our present. We want to be purposeful. What can I do in the present? Purposeful in the present. So we try to improve in the future. So another way to understand this is that a devotee, there are almost like two distinct emotions. There is the desire to do more for Krishna, but our desire, our devotion is seen by wanting to do more for Krishna. But our devotion is also seen in our accepting the situation we are in right now. So this is where I am. Maybe it is because of I was not sincere enough or whatever, but where I am, it is within Krishna's will. So we shouldn't think that only when I do something more for Krishna, then Krishna will be pleased with me. Until then, Krishna won't care for me. It's not like that. So we should be able to be satisfied even now. So chant and be happy, Prabhupada said. Prabhupada didn't say that improve your service and then you should be happy. No, he said that right now that we are connected with Krishna, you have the opportunity to connect with Krishna, be happy about it. Thank you very much. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की
जय
श्रील प्रभुपाद की
जय
गौर भक्त वृंद की
जय
जय गौर प्रेमानंदे
हरि हरि बोल Hare Krishna. How many of you are hearing from Prabhuji for the first time? Okay, some of you. So Prabhuji joined ISKCON about 30 years ago and has been living the life of a monk since 30 years. He graduated from Pune, COEP College of Engineering. And Prabhuji was a very brilliant student academically. In his GRE, he scored 2350 out of 2400. So he was a topper, and he was very his English vocabulary is very high, as you can see from his lectures. And Proj has authored more than 25 books, and some of the books we are at display here. Every year he comes up with one new book. Whole year he contemplates, keeps compiling many articles. Every day he writes at least one article. Even yesterday night he wrote 2 articles. So Proj is very fond of thinking on Gita, contemplating on Gita, and writing many books. So Proj has written many. He written it. There's a website called GitaDaily.com where he used to upload one article every day, and there are thousands of articles in that website, more than 5,000 articles. And he was invited to give talk at TEDx, and even in World Peace Conference, UNESCO, Intel, Google, Microsoft, Salesforce, Stanford, Princeton, Yale, Harvard, Massachusetts, Cambridge, and many other colleges. And he gives 400 talks across 100 cities in 4 continents every year. Okay. So very Yeah, so now also we are going to IIM Bangalore for a seminar right after this program. So let's thank Prabhuji from the core of the heart for coming here and giving us his association. We pray that he comes here every year. We also pray that Krishna gives him good health and strength so that he can continue his service of spreading this message of Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Proj will be here just for another 10 minutes. After that, we have to leave. So if those who wish to get the book signed, they can come and get the sign.
Hare Krishna. We'll quickly finish the announcements and after that you can approach.
Those who want to come for sign,